Please excuse the noise in the background. We are not under Martian attack. Well, at least not as far as I'm aware. There's fireworks, so don't worry. The man cave is not being bombarded with artillery. Not just yet. Anyway, it's nearly silly season again, which is strange because silly season just sort of finished, wasn't it? It seems a matter of days ago since we were trying to tie up the Said Benrahma deal on last knock-ins of the transfer window, the championship transfer window. It all gets very complicated, of course, doesn't it? So I believe it's 57, 58 days until the next transfer window starts. Of course, we all know why. It's because the football calendar's all been completely mucked up because of the lockdown and coronavirus, in the same way that it seems to have mucked up everything else. However, with the onset of silly season comes the onset of us being linked with lots and lots of different players. Now, a couple have sprung to mind. A couple that look like one that definitely looks like he's coming in. One that we were linked with before, who might now want to come back in, who previously turned us down. And then there's a couple to talk about. A couple we'd like to shift out and move on, certainly. One of which is not looking too clever. It's all a bit cryptic, isn't it? I said all that without naming anyone. So I'll give you a name straight away. The name is Frederick Alves from Silkeborg, which is a great name for a football team. Silkeborg in Denmark. Alves, you probably know this because you've probably seen the rumours, but I think the story behind Alves is quite good. He's a big boy. He's nearly 6'3", so he's a David Moyes type signing. We know this one's probably Moisey, as it were. He can play at centre half or he can play at full back. Apparently, never seen him play. Don't know. Well, seen a couple of clips on YouTube, but that's never enough, is it? Interesting story, actually. So, born in Denmark, Danish, raised in Denmark, but as you could probably tell from the name of Alves, which is one of the few names I can pronounce, he is of Brazilian ancestry. And I don't mean, like in the 1800s or something like that. I believe one of his parents is Brazilian. His grandparents still live over there. So he wasn't picked up as a footballer in Denmark. Here's the crazy thing. He went over on holiday to Brazil to visit some family. And whilst he was there, he was kicking a ball around. And a Brazilian scout spotted him. See? Explosions. A Brazilian scout spotted him and signed him up to a Brazilian club. And then a Danish scout saw him playing for the Brazilian club, didn't realise he was Danish, went to sign him, realised he was a Danish citizen. Took him back to Denmark and he ended up playing for Silkeborg. Just a great story, really. So anyway, we've apparently, not just bid for him, apparently we've had the bid accepted. He's signing in January. So I hear £1.2 million. So not a big expenditure. And if you'd listen to the story, then it was very much suggesting that he would look to go into the under-23s and be one of those. Let's just hope it sort of turns out and works out a little bit better than maybe Silva and Cardoso have, who were players who signed along similar lines. Haksabanovic was another one. Martinez as well, if you remember. These are all young players who signed for a fee rather than young players who sort of came through the academy and whatnot. So anyway, so that's interesting. Now, you may well remember, I mentioned him, I keep calling him Thor because he does look a bit like Thor from the Avengers. Caleta-Car from Marseille. Cast your mind back. We had a bid accepted and it looked like the deal was going to go through. Now, as I understand it, this really was somebody that David Moyes had particularly fancied. And it didn't go through because Caleta-Car decided that he wanted to stay at Marseille and play Champions League football. Now, I think he actually turned us down after the Newcastle loss. So I guess he'd watched us, seen us flirt with relegation last season, see us play against Newcastle, and as anybody would, if you saw us play against Newcastle, whoa, don't worry about it, thanks but no thanks. In the same fashion that Tarkowski did. So he's sort of released a statement through his agent, this Caleta-Car, and you've got to read between the lines. It just amused me. It really tickled me. So it said, Hammers could return from Champions League centre-back. It says, Marseille centre-back. I don't know why it took me... I started reading and took my glasses off. Sorry, it's the wrong way around. Marseille centre-back, Duje Caleta-Car, has admitted that he turned down a really good offer to join a Premier League club believed to be West Ham. Yes, it's true, he said. I had an offer from a club in the Premier League. It's a really good offer for the club from me, he told reporters. But I decided to stay and play Champions League football because it was the biggest dream in my life when I was young. I dreamt about it. So that was the first reason. Okay. Let me translate that for you. What he's basically saying was, I had a bid, and I had an offer to go to a club. I never heard of them before, West Hammers or something like that. I'd never heard of them. I was going to sign, then I had a look. I saw they almost got relegated last season. Saw them play against Newcastle. I thought, there's no way I'm signing for that shower. Since then, I've seen them play against Arsenal. I've seen them play against Wolves, Leicester, Man City, Liverpool. And they ain't that bad. So now I'm interested. And I'm quite happy to take the 85 grand a week. That's my translation of it anyway. It goes on to say that he's signed up with a stellar group with Jonathan Barnett, who's Gareth Bale's agent, and it says Garrett and Hugh have been told there's a 60% chance of landing a player. Oh no, sorry, there was a 60% chance of landing a player. The deal was agreed with Marseille. The player turned it down. Basically, after a 3-0 loss to Porto and 2 other losses, Marseille sit at the bottom of Group C in the Champions League and seem unlikely to proceed to the next round. So basically, the final translation of this sorry saga is, I thought West Ham were crap, so I didn't want to join West Ham. Now it turns out that Marseille are crap, and West Ham seem all right. So I think I'll go and join West Ham now, if you don't mind. Taxi for Caleta-Car, please. Maybe not. The truth is, we don't need him anymore. We've got a good defence. We don't need Thor from the Avengers sitting in defence. We got a rejuvenated Aaron Cresswell sat in there. We got the Master, Ogbonna, the General, Balbuena, the unlucky protege. In terms, I've just named him that. That's not really his moniker, really, is it? But the unlucky protege in Diop, and then we've also signed Dawson on a loan deal, and of course the young Alves is coming in as well. Maybe we don't have 30 million to spend. And actually, I've got to say, Claret and Hugh have written quite a sarcastic piece saying from 50 million Tarkowski to 1.5 million Alaves. It's suggesting that there's quite a climb down in terms of our transfer budget. None of us are wholly surprised. I discussed Porto in that. And Porto being in the Champions League, which takes me on to Felipe Anderson. And what is, I think, again, quite a sorry tale. I think it's sad. It's really sad what's happened to Felipe Anderson. Let me read you the article. Then what I want to do is I want to talk about what Porto's coach said about Felipe Anderson. I was going to do a video about it last week, if you remember. I never got round to it, and so many things in the West Ham world have happened between now and then. It says Felipe Anderson has been criticised following his move to FC Porto. He's struggled to make an impact since his move. He made his debut against Sporting Lisbon in Portuguese League, but he played just 31 minutes as a substitute. Following that, he was on the bench against Vicente, played 18 minutes in a 3-2 defeat to Pacos Ferreira, and he hasn't started for Porto yet. He's not played in the Champions League either. I think they played 3 games. He was an unused sub against Man City and Olympiacos, while he's left out of the squad altogether against Marseille. We just heard about the Marseille-Porto game. Porto didn't miss him earlier in the week, so they put 3 past the French side in a resounding group stage win. He's now been criticised by former Portugal international Jorge, it's George, but we'll say Jorge Costa. He said Felipe Anderson is a big disappointment. Now, last week, the Porto head coach alluded to the fact that Anderson needed to do more. He needed to pull his finger out. He lacked motivation. He needed to show some drive. Made comments alluding to the fact that he had tons of talent there and the opportunity was there for him to grasp if he wanted to progress, but he hadn't done it. Well, this all seems remarkably familiar, as it will do to you and it does to me. It does make you wonder. We heard a little bit about this when we signed him from Lazio. Lazio fans were saying he turns up sort of when he wants to. Not fully committed. Great player on his day. As I have a tendency, and I sort of like to do, you've seen me do it with Sebastian Haller, and certainly with Chicharito, and I'm willing to accept that certain styles and certain managers suit certain players. And he started quite well at West Ham, didn't he? Let's be fair, Anderson had that great game against Manchester United and looked pretty good. But I was certainly started to concede towards the end of Pellegrini's reign. Pellegrini wasn't a particularly attacking coach by the time he finished. He wasn't an attacking manager. He just wasn't. And he wasn't particularly good at defending either. I remember us doing a match review and we'd had one shot on target. And I said to Gio in the review, hold on, this was David Moyes at his worst. With hardly any possession and one shot on target. What's the point in having Pellegrini if you're going to get defensive football and not attack? It's like having a Ferrari but then walk into the shops. It's just no use at all. So I was willing to accept that things hadn't worked out for Felipe Anderson, but then it comes in and you got the impression when David Moyes came in that Moyes definitely wanted Felipe Anderson to work and he put him in the team straight away. And then not only did he put him in a team, he actually then tried to create a position for him, the old Mark Noble, a special position. Played him through the centre, tried a few things. It was doing all right. Actually, Felipe Anderson got injured. And then it just never happened. And you just felt he wasn't committed at that point. And now he seems to be having exactly the same problems at Porto. Well, this all can't be coincidence. Lazio, West Ham, yeah. Lazio, West Ham, and now at Porto. And the coach is criticising him, fans are criticising him, and now I don't know anything about Jorge Costa's role in the media, but let's say he's the Jamie Carragher of Portuguese football, or whatever, the Gary Lineker, or whatever the case may be. But clearly the Portuguese pundits are not impressed with him. And I just wonder what Felipe Anderson is up to. He's literally letting his career fizzle out. Because this is his one chance. This is his chance to repair his reputation. And it's a bad thing for West Ham that he's not doing well at Porto. Because if he comes back, number one, we ain't said. Number two, I'm not sure anyone else will take him on loan. You've got to see something. You've got to see a sparkle. You've got to see some promise. And he's gone there. This is a Brazilian international. This is a guy with some decent attributes, with pace, with a good shot. He's got a lot going for him. But you just never see it. You see these half-baked attempts at doing a dribble, at doing a sprint, at doing a cross, at doing a defence-splitting pass, at having a shot. You just want someone to get hold of him and shake him and just say, look, mate, I don't know how old Anderson is. What's Anderson, 27, 28? I think, mate, before you know it, you're going to be 32 and your career's going to be gone. And you'll have wasted it. And yes, you might have a load of money sat in the bank and you might be able to pat yourself on the back and say that was a successful career. Really, no, it would have been a successful money-making venture. A successful career, it certainly hasn't been. For somebody with that much talent, for somebody who's had the opportunity to play in Portugal, to play in Syria, to play in the Premier League, he's not done well enough at all. And it makes you wonder what we were doing when we actually purchased him, because this is why you've got to scout when you scout for players. This is why you've got to scout not just for their talent, but number one, something we've never done particularly well. Scout for injury. How fit are they? Not at just that particular point. How fit have they been throughout their career, even in youth football? Are they susceptible to injury? Yeah, you've got to scout for that. But you've got to scout for what's going on up there as well. You really do. Are you buying a determined player? I often talk about Mikel Antonio, and I often talk about Jared Bowen. Obviously, one has been in the club a lot longer from the other, but you can see they don't stop. There's something up there. There's something going on up there. They just have that force of character. They're just hard workers. If they hadn't made it as at football, whatever they'd have gone on to do, they'd have been hard workers. They'd have been grafters. Whatever trade they'd have gone into. And at some point, you have to start looking at that. And this has been a massive, massive waste of money. And it is a shame for Felipe Anderson, because I want to like everybody that comes in at West Ham. I even said it when Craig Dawson came in. I hope he does well. I really do. I don't want people to come in at West Ham and be crap. But he's no good. It's no good. I don't mean he's not good. He is good. But it's even worse. That's even worse. The fact that he is good and he doesn't try is terrible. The fact that he's got talent but doesn't back himself. What's the point in having... What is the point in being able to nutmeg someone if you're too scared to try it? What's the point in being able to shoot the football at 55 mile an hour and 30 yards if you're not prepared to have a shot? And so on and so forth. Shame for him. I mean, it is a massive shame for Felipe Anderson, but I cannot see any way back for him. Well, things would have to turn around for him at Porto. And it sounds like... Well, it sounds like they're not going to do very well. And if they do well, Porto, he ain't going to be involved in the team. We feel ripped off, quite frankly, because we've spent 35, 36 million on him. I think Porto feel ripped off. They were reporting earlier on in the week, with a little bit of delight, that there was no clause to send him back. And West Ham were reporting, thinking, hey, this is great. There's no recall clause on Felipe Anderson. Why is that good? Well, it's good because Porto got to continue paying him 100 grand a week for the rest of the season. They must feel right ripped off. That's a lot of money in that league. They thought they were getting a superstar. They got a substitute.